9 a.m. Wednesday morn. That only means one thing. What is that, Sharon Boyd?
We so need some kind of jingle because every time I just want to
right,
do
okay.
it.
We do. Well, listeners and viewers, firstly, welcome. Episode 7.
Yeah.
7 of Here to Tinpot 2. Yes, we are currently, well, there's a couple of things happening, isn't there? This quite soon. One has already happened, which is a fantastic podcast build.
Yeah.
So over the next couple of weeks, you will see the production value significantly increase. And I think this is, it's like anything, isn't it? And this podcast, by the way, which I didn't mention, is all about running, which I'm going to get into in a second. But it's a little bit like running, isn't it? When you start a podcast, is you start small, you start cheap, and then you go, ooh, I'm quite enjoying this. It's a bit like therapy. I'll spend a little bit more. Maybe I might get a microphone or a camera. But in true Here to Tinpot 2 fashion, we've just gone, right, okay, we need a studio. And then also we need to engage professional lighting, sound, and camera people to up the production value. So, yes, listeners and viewers, your eyes will be feasted and be full, and listeners, your ears will be unwaxed. I don't know. I don't know. With the eyes, I get with the eyes, you go what they say with the first bite is with the eye. What is it with the ear? Liquid honey pouring in your ear? I don't know. Or is that pouring poison in your ears? Either way, who knows? How are you, Sharon?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Yeah. How are you?
I'm very well. I've just recently had my birthday
Happy
last week. Yes, thank you very much. I am now 9 years young, which is great. What I found though, as you get older, and this is probably a male thing. Not that I'm saying anyone's different, but I found that as I'm getting older, my mental age is going the other way. So I'm becoming more immature as I get older. Now, maybe there are layers of maturity on there, but what that basically means is that my jokes are getting more sophisticated and I'm throwing a lot more tantrums. That was Sharon's emails, by the way, or a notification.
It wasn't. Where that's come from.
No. This is another chat we need to have about MacBooks and Windows machines. I know I'm going to lose the debate in terms of hardware regarding MacBooks, but from a price point of view, I'm an MSI sort of guy. My MSI is significantly more powerful than Sharon's MacBook, and a fraction of the cost. And it doesn't bing and bong. But listeners, apologies, you're not going to be able to see this, but viewers, I wanted to show you something that I got for my birthday, and I'll describe it for the listeners as well. So what you are, let me just move out of the way. What you'll be able to see there is a very beautifully drawn caricature of myself and the other founder of MKL, John. But it's a Rick and Morty caricature. So you've probably seen the Simpsons ones where you can get them. You get drawn in various poses in front of the Simpsons house. This is myself and John coming out of a portal that Rick's created, and I've got a gun in my hand. I've got the nice B logo on my arm, which is an MKL design. John is coming out, and he's got Yorkshire tea in his hand because he is a Yorkshireman, like myself, not a Southerner. I just wanted to show that with people. I just wanted to share it. I like little quirky gifts like that. But this podcast, as I said, is all about running. Myself and Sharon, I think we've flirted with running over the years. I think the thing that both inspired us to get back into running was, I was going to say a mutual friend, but we don't know him.
We do.
Well, I feel like I know him because I've read his book. and listen to his podcast or podcasts he's been on quite a few times. So he's very open and honest. So I feel like I do know him. It's the one and only David Goggins. And the reason why we wanted to get back into running is we've got a marathon to train for. Which marathon is that, Sharon?
It's the Milton Keynes one. It's 2nd of May.
Well, yeah. See, so I mean, I've been told different things about the Milton Keynes Marathon. Anybody listening to this who has done it, please comment, let me know. I've been told it's good, and I've also been told it's bad. The reason why I've been told it's good is because it's flat, and the reason I've been told it's bad is because it's flat. So I don't know who to believe. So I'm just going to get on with it on the day. But you've already done it, haven't you, Sharon?
Yeah, it's my one and only marathon so far. And I did it when it was 27 degrees. And I absolutely loved it, actually, because you run through a lot of different communities, and everyone comes out, and because it was so hot, there was people shooting us with water guns and providing us with...
No. Who was shooting you with water guns?
There were firemen along the way as well, which was hoses, which was slightly different.
Let's not go into that.
Nice little treat along the way. But yeah, the community spirit was out in full force.
For you, it was probably a good experience. I don't know how I'd feel being hosed off by a fireman. Not an experience I'd never actually gone out and explored, but now that I think about it, on a hot day like that, I would imagine that it's very. What was your time?
I know it was coming up for 6 hours, so I'm a bit of a plodder. All I wanted to do was survive it because it was so hot. So as long as I beat that this time round, I'll be happy.
Well, I mean, to be honest, for me, I'm not doing this for a time. I'm doing it just because I want to get through it. So I know then people go, "Oh, I did it in 3 hours. I did it in 3.5 hours. I did it in 6 hours. I did mine in 7 hours, or whatever it might be." I don't care. I just want to finish it.
Well, we're doing it with an aim, aren't we? So the next point on from this is for us to attempt ultras.
Well, I mean, technically, you could do that already. The reason why I wanted to do an ultra, which is an ultra marathon, and I believe it's classed as an ultra anything over 30 miles, and then God knows where you go there. I mean, you've got like the Badwater 130 or 135, which is what is in Death Valley that David Goggins runs, or you've got nearer to home for me, there's the Liverpool to Leeds Canal, which is 140 miles. I mean, you probably do that really quickly running down that canal because there's all sorts of stuff that goes on down there. But that's the aim is to do that. And for me, it's not about the fitness per se. I just want to see if I'm mentally tough enough to be able to do that, because it comes back into that comment or that nice story that David Goggins talks about around that 40% rule. That when you feel, or when your brain's telling you that you've had enough, you've got at least 60% left in your physical tank to be able to go more. And I find that quite an intriguing concept to test.
I find that really powerful, hugely powerful. And that pushes me when I'm running, because I do think, come on, Sharon, you've got so much more to give. Don't let your brain let you down. Come on, keep going.
And then what I found as well is, naturally, everybody's busy. So it's not as if we could go, I'm going to jack everything in tomorrow for work, and I'm then going to go and train for a marathon. I'm going to train for an ultra. You've got to be able to fit it around your family, your work commitments, your social commitments. If you have any, Sharon does. I don't have any friends, so it doesn't really matter for me. She's a social butterfly. But then you've also you've got to find that balance between coming home from work and what I normally do is I will come home from work and I will go upstairs, I've all the intention. So I'll put my running stuff on, not my shoes yet. I'll put my running stuff on, come downstairs. I'll put my phone in my arm, arm carrier that I've got, and my key to my front door. And I'll get Nala, my dog, all geared up. That's Sharon bonging again. MacBooks. Go back to that. This is what I'm talking about around the professionalism here. We got a weak link in the chain now. So I'll get Nala ready. And Nala, I've found, is a fantastic running partner for me. She's a sheepdog, so she's fantastic. And she'll be sat on the floor near the bottom step, and I'll be sat on the bottom step. I'll have my running socks on, my running shorts, my running top. I'll have my phone strapped to my arm, key in it. She'll have her harness on, her lead on, and I'll be staring at my shoes going, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. But what I found for me, the trick has been is to get her ready, because she's sitting there sort of like whimpering ever so quietly, like, ready to go. And then if I just turn around and went, no, I'm not going to go now, I feel really bad.
Yeah. So you can't back out once you've got your dog ready.
Well, that's it. Once she knows it's walkies time, and it goes. And she's very good, because I'm very lucky to live in a place where probably a 5-minute run from the house to the place where I go running is just open farmers' fields. And I wanted to do a lot of trail running, because I found that with trail running, it's a little bit more dynamic. Your hips move a bit. I mean, there's a lot more prone to injury, but I found that my legs work a lot harder running on the trails, which means I probably punish myself a bit more, which is good, I guess. But also, when I take Nala, I can't take her off the lead at the side of the road. But once I'm up on the farmers' fields, I can take her off the lead and she'll run with me. And last night it was hill sprints. So
it wasn't just hill sprints, though, was it? It was hill sprints in new trainers. So this is where we've had different approaches here, isn't it? So I've also got new trainers. So I did an indoor walk because it was late, because I've had my trainers for a while. Here they are. So listeners, pink Nike trainers. So I've had these new trainers for some time, but I decided last night, okay, so Mark's got new trainers. I'm going to break out my bad boys and finally kind of try them out. So I did a 3-mile walk in my house whilst watching Squid Games. And
great film.
And I thought, right, okay, then this is me wearing them in. And then this morning, because I thought we'll start small, I just did a 1 mile in them to wear them in. Mark, though, go on, tell us about what you did.
Well, it was my birthday, as I said recently, and one of the things that I wanted to get for my birthday was some new running shoes, because again, I've been told various different things when you get into running. You need to change your trainers every 100 miles. You need to change them every 150 miles or 200 miles or whatever. And I'll get onto some of the analysis in a minute, because I found that I'm probably over the 100-mile barrier in my original shoes from what I've been running before I then got back into running, because I've had my old running shoes for a number of years. And I ran for a while, and then I stopped training for 2 years because started a business. Is no excuse, but I started a business, put on a load of weight, didn't want to go running because it had wrecked my knees, but I probably had done over 100 miles in those trainers. So I wanted to get some new ones, but I wanted to test out the technology in these new trainers, because we're a technology company. I did a lot of research, and I found Nike had an experimental shoe where they'd thrown every sort of experimental technology that is legal into this shoe. So I thought, right, I'm going to try that. And I read, apologies, I can't remember his name, but the chap that had these shoes did the quickest marathon in them. But I think he's had double carbon plates and all sorts in it. But I'm not too sure about that. So the shoe that I went for, they're the Nike Air Zoom Amplify Next %. And I'm going to share my screen at the moment, and I'll describe them to the listeners. But these are like moon boots. So I put them on for the first time. They're carbon plated, which you get a nice kick. Which again, I'm learning all this. So when I was in the market for a new running shoe, I was hearing people saying, "Oh, you need a carbon underlay to it or a carbon insole." I'm thinking, wouldn't that be hurt your feet having a carbon insole? And interestingly, these Nikes are the first ones where if you turn them upside down, they're the first running shoe, I believe, that has the carbon plate on display. So you can actually touch it and see it. It's just a black metal, well, carbon plate. And the trick is for that is when you push off the ground, the carbon plate is supposed to contract and spring, and then that propels you forward. So it gives you a nice little kick every time you sort of your foot strikes the ground. And they've got foam, and they've got the air zoom bubble at the front, and they're fantastic. But I tried them on the first time the other day, yesterday. Went for a run, but I thought I'm going to try the carbon plate kick out. So I've added hill sprints into my routine. So I took Nala out, ran, I don't know, maybe a mile up to the place where there's a steep hill. And what I normally do is I'll start at the top of the hill, and I'll put Nala's lead across the track, and nobody's about, so no one's going to pick it up. I'll put the lead across the track, like a little dirt track, and then I'll walk down to the bottom of the hill, turn round, and then I'll say to her, I'll get her all excited. So she'll start jumping up at me, and I'll go 3, 2, 1, boom, sprint. We'll sprint up the hill for about a good 50, 60 meters, because I wanted to really test them out. And I'm not going to lie, the carbon plate was different. I wasn't expecting it to perform in that way. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but I could definitely feel the cushioning. And to be honest, I'm sat here today, and my legs and not on my calves are not as tired as they normally are after I've done hill sprints. I mean, my quads and everything are on fire, because I don't think I can do anything about that other than just to train and build them up. But my legs don't feel as tired as a result of using that shoe. The only problem with the shoe is it's just very expensive. They are a very expensive shoe, so I need to be careful with running in them because they're not really designed to do trail running. So I'm going to keep my old shoe to wreck on the farmers' fields and use these Amplify Next Percent to be able to do a bit more road running. But shall I share some data with our listeners and viewers, and then we can talk about our different approaches to this?
Yes. Yeah.
So viewers, you'll be able to see a very engaging Excel spreadsheet. And listeners, what we have here is we have two columns. And the first column is all my runs, and the second column is all Sharon's runs. So first run to 23 runs for me, first run to the 9th run for Sharon. Now, you might be thinking, well, you've done 23 runs, Sharon's done 9, but we've got very different approaches to this. So do you want to explain your approach, Sharon, and then I'll talk about mine?
Yeah, so I'm doing it slightly differently to how I did it before. So when I was doing marathon training before, I went to the local lake, which is 1.5 miles, and ran around it and kept building up by running more and more and more and more runs around the lake. This time I'm doing something slightly different in terms of I'm doing events. I find that events work really quite well for me. So in my event calendar, every 2 weeks I've booked a run, and most of them are 10k, and then I get into halves. So that's what I'm doing, and because there's going to have to be some work done between a 10k and a half, because a half is double a 10k. There's extra pressure on me then to make sure I run further. But yeah, as you can see from my graph, mine's kind of the peaks. So I tend to do 7 miles at a time. and then I drop down and just do a couple of maintenance ones, versus you do things slightly differently, don't you?
Yeah, I think, and listening to that is, I can definitely see the appeal, because if you're doing an event, what do they say? As in, if you're doing a marathon, if you can do 15 miles, the crowd will take you the rest of the way. But I mean, that still does sound like a long way for the crowd to carry you. Another 11 miles on top of that. So
Yes.
we'll see. We'll put that theory to the test when we do it. But mine's a little bit different, because I go for lower distance but more consistency. And the reason for that is, I've got they call it the bug, don't they? So when you get the bug, it's one of those things that people get, that will, you'll go to the gym. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about it when he in the film Pumping Iron, but I won't use his terminology, of the kick that he gets when he's working out, and is it a performance and is it a show? It's a great feeling, but it took me a while. I'd say it took a good 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks, close to that, to get the bug, because I hadn't run for a while. So when you first start running, for me, before I did it this time, and I'll explain the difference. When I used to run, I'd go out and I'd just run. So there'd be no real pace. I'd run at a pace that I think I could do. And my heart rate would get up to 170, 175. When I was quite fit, I could probably keep that up for a couple of miles, and then I'd just burn out and it'd just be hard. And then when I read about David Goggins, and then I listened to a podcast that I was on with Joe Rogan, he talks about heart rate training. So zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4. He talks about keeping it around the zone 1, zone 2 area when he's running, which means he can just plod. So as long as his legs are strong, and his mental strength is strong, if he can keep his heart rate in that zone 1, zone 2 area, he can go forever. So I thought I'll give that a try. So over the sort of course of the last few weeks and months, I've kept a more close eye on my heart rate than the distance and the time. So my 5K time isn't anything impressive. It's like 35 minutes. But what I wanted to do was try this theory of keeping my heart rate as consistent and as comfortable as possible over that 5K difference, to see what would happen. And as a result of that, what I am starting to find is that my core level of cardiovascular fitness is improving, because of that focus on the heart rate rather than and what the viewers will be able to see in the peak of mine. So Sharon's is like a mountain range, like the Himalayas. So it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Mine starts quite flat, and then there's a big peak up to 10 miles, and then down, and then it's the same. And the reason for that 10-mile peak was I wasn't aiming for 10 mile. I just wanted to go out and see what I could do. So one day I just decided to go out and train and run and see how far my legs could get me until I had to walk. So I did all the carb loading a couple of days before, and I never realized again how important diet was in this. So, and my naivety last time I was training, well, I wasn't training for anything, but last time I was trying to keep fit, I would keep fit so I could continue to eat whatever I wanted. And I've heard a few people say that. So the reason why I go to the gym, or the reason why I run, is so I can continue to have a McDonald's or whatever, and I can keep that balance, which I sort of get. But when you fuel your body, if you were to put crap fuel into your M3, Sharon, it won't really perform too well. And it's the same as the body, isn't it? So putting the right fuels in makes the machine work better. And I was very impressed with myself that I could just run just shy of 10K before I had to, 10 miles before I had to walk. And then I'll do that again at some point soon, just to see if I've improved. But let's just count this up of how many miles I've done. So from the first run on the 19th of August up until the last run I did was middle of October, I'd done 72 miles, which I'm quite impressed with that.
I think that's very impressive. Yeah, because you've done little and often, but you really racked those miles up.
Yeah, I mean, but look, yours are a bigger mile. So there's a 7.3 mile run there, 7 mile run there, 6.2 mile run there. Obviously, a mile run there where you're breaking in your trainers. But what I'm finding now, and listeners and viewers, I don't know if you've experienced this, but once you can control your heart rate to the point where you don't sound like you're going to have a heart attack, and you can run comfortably, your conscious and subconscious mind, I've found anyway, start to really unlock and have very interesting, thought-provoking topics coming through. I mean, I did a pitch recently to a well-known government agency, and as I'm running around a couple of days before that pitch, I'm having all these things pop into my head, going, "Ooh, why don't you do that? And why don't you do this?" And I think we have a mutual friend, don't we, Sharon, who explained this to us around sports psychology. So, Chris, if you're watching or listening to this, this is testament to yourself. And he said to me, myself and Sharon, when we met him for lunch, that when you're doing something quite physical, like running, and I apologize, Chris, if you listen to this and I'm not quite nailing it, but I remember sending you that very, very random voice message after a run. I don't normally do that. I don't come from a run and then randomly put a voice message in WhatsApp to a dude and go, "Guess what? This." But it really struck a chord with me, because we did an experiment in the car park, didn't we? And it's a shame it's one of those experiments that you can't really mimic over a podcast, I guess. But what I said to him is, when I come back from my run, I visualized myself having a good run. I told myself I was going to have a good run. And then when I was up and running, my conscious mind was, because it was trail running, going, "Watch that rock. Where's Nala? Control your breathing. Oh, look, there's a nice car over there. Please, Mr. Dog, don't come and bite my dog. Watch that poo. What's that over there? Don't know. There's a rustle in the bushes. Please don't get stabbed." That's all the stuff that's going through in my conscious mind. But in my subconscious mind, it's just off and away, and it's bringing all sorts of these things forward. Have you ever found, I mean, you've done more distance than me in terms of your individual runs, Sharon. Have you found that your brain sort of starts kicking up some weird and wonderful ideas when you're running?
Yeah, and that's exactly, I mean, obviously there's the main reason, which is for fitness, but there's a huge bit about kind of giving your mind that mental space just to go wherever it wants. And for me, I often find that there's been something that's been bugging me at the back of my mind that I haven't given it the space. And once I start running, I can throw things around in my head and kind of give it those different angles and perspectives. And by the end of my run, I'm like, sorted, that I've put that to bed, I've dealt with it, or I've got a plan to go forwards. And as you say, you can be quite creative when you're running, because you've got that space to play. Normally I can only be creative if I've got a pen in my hand, an implement that I can scribble with. But actually when I'm running, that's another time when I can be quite creative. So I really appreciate that angle. Do you want to move on to the learnings that we've found so far? Because we've been racking these up as we've gone, haven't we? We've got different learnings from speaking to different people.
Well, yeah, oh God, I mean, I know you've got your list that we can go through, but I think off the top of my head, before we explore that, is I found that when I've got back into the fitness side of it, I always heard people talk about, more so on podcasts as well, around the link between physical activity, mental health, and your performance at work.
Yeah.
So we recently did a 6-month challenge, where the 6-month challenge was, we took Jordan Peterson's rule and worked as hard as we could at one thing for 6 months to see what would happen. And that one thing was work. So I thought, well, I'm gonna work as hard as I can for 6 months and no days off, 7 days a week for 6 months, just to see what would happen. And some of those days were 37, 38 hours long, really punishing. But one of the areas that was quite bizarre that came out of that for a learning from me, and maybe it comes back to that 40% rule, because this was more of it was a physical one, I guess, but very much mental, was I started layering on more stuff. So as a result of doing that 6 month challenge and pushing as hard as I could to see what would happen at work, I then started to go, well, what would happen if I put fitness on top of that? And that fitness was when I was starting to become aware of David Goggins. I bought a spin bike because I would say for my size, I was larger than I wanted to be. So I knew that if I just went straight away and put my running shoes on, I'd either wreck my knees, cause an injury, and get really disengaged and hate it. So I thought I'm going to get a really good spin bike and I'm going to start to try to drop some weight that way. And then when I drop a little bit of weight, I'm going to start running. But I found that because of the result of pushing myself so hard, I didn't start to take off things. I started to add more things on. And then as a result of that, I've lost a load of weight. I feel great about myself. I've got more energy. I feel like I can take more stuff on from a capacity point of view, from a mental side of it. And I'm enjoying my days better because when I feel good about myself and I'm putting the right fuel in my body, but also I've got the time when stuff happens at work and we have complex things to deal with to then let them ferment on a slow boil or a slow cooker while I'm out running, and that wouldn't have happened without running. That was my learning.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And one of the learnings I've got on here, you just touched on actually, which is fueling. So whether that's pasta, banana, porridge, whatever it is, doing that carb loading makes such a difference to us, doesn't it? Making sure you've got that fuel in your body before you run. Because once you get halfway round and you find you've got nothing left in your tank, that is so hard to drag yourself around. I've been there, and you can have millions of people lined up offering you jelly babies or whatever, but unless you have got that proper foundation of your fuel, it makes it very difficult. So I definitely say that that's a big one for me. And the other one that I'm starting to look at now is sports drinks. So I was reading yesterday that sports drinks do triple duty when compared to water, because they've got obviously the fluid, carbohydrates and the electrolytes, and sodium in there. And so that's something that I've never really added into mine. I've always just stuck with water. So that's something I'll be trying out. Talking on salt, you've been trying salt tablets, haven't you? How's that worked for you?
Yeah, but I don't use those all the time. I'll only use them when I've done
Big
maybe
runs.
bigger runs, because again I read I remember when Dave Goggins was doing his first ultra, and a little old lady came up to him and said, have you got any salt tablets? And he said, what are those? And she
Yeah.
laughed at him and then gave him a handful of salt tablets. And the reason why you take these is because you sweat a lot when you run, and you need to replace that. Otherwise, you're going to cramp up. So taking a salt tablet every hour or so when you're doing long, consistent exercise can help take that off. And to be honest, I haven't really pushed that theory to the test yet, because I'm gonna try that when I try to go beyond the 10-mile barrier again. And I'm going to take some with me and do it. But I couldn't agree more on the nutrition side. I've tried all sorts of things, gels and stuff like that. And I found that if I take too many gels, unfortunately, if I run past people, I'm carpet bombing them. So it's, I'll do a little boffs. And then I've also been told by a couple of guys that I know that have done ultras that don't be surprised if during a race you don't have to go behind a tree or a bush somewhere and have a big poo. It just happens because you diet and don't forget, everything's jiggling around all over the place. I mean, it's a bit like the skydive podcast that we did. After the skydive, I couldn't get off the toilet because it was just gravity took over. And I'm finding that with running, not only am I going more regularly, but everything seems to be working a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe it's de-stress. Maybe I'm taking stuff out of my bloodstream. Who knows? But
yeah, one of my learnings from from the original marathon that I did was don't stop at the first portaloo on a marathon if you're a girl, because the rest of the world is doing it too, and you just wait forever and just waste precious time. I think I wasted about 15 minutes waiting in a queue at a
Oh
portaloo.
no.
And it was just because it was like, oh, I think it's like nerves, because you've got 26 miles to go and you're thinking, oh, I don't know when the next toilet is, and girls can't just nip behind the nearest bush as easily as boys can. But
Or you can do a Paula Radcliffe and just go
carry
at the
on.
side of the just squat down and do it.
Yeah, and because you've got a time start and all the rest of it, it's yeah. So for me, that's a definite learning that I need to just. What I did read the other day is to try to get into a routine of running on your exercise runs, like your training runs, as the same time as you're going to be running your actual timed races, because then your body can start to acclimatize between what time you run and what time you might need to prep in advance. If you know what I mean.
That's difficult when considering the way that we work. It's going to be quite. So the other thing that I found is again that I didn't do before and that I am doing now is we spoke about the food and the fuel and the actual exercise itself. It's the aftercare that I'm really taking important now. So again, I had a very good tip to use compression socks after you run. So I take stretching off very seriously now. So I'll do my run and I'll stretch for a good 20 minutes after that, usually on my bedroom floor in a sweaty pile. And then I'll jump straight into the shower. I'll get into the shower and I'll take on electrolytes and as much carbohydrates within reason, to be honest, after it, nothing too heavy. And then as soon as I'm out of the shower and I'm dried, I'll put on the compression socks. And it might not be for everyone, but I can only speak from my personal self. I've tried it without them and I've tried it with them. And when I try it with them, my calves are nowhere near as sore as they used to be after running. They're just not.
I would agree with that. I find that the knee support, so I have less trouble with my calves, but my knees, if I wear a compression knee support after running, I find it really does support me. The other thing that I found for me is getting some good insoles. So just like you said, fantastic trainers, if you put the money in and you got all the support, for me, my trainers are a little bit cheaper, so I've gone for some more expensive insoles. And actually, they really have made a difference to me to avoid that PF, as we call it, which I have no idea how to pronounce that. Plantar.
Oh, yes, the plantar fructus thing, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get that in my left foot.
Yeah, so I think compression socks, good trainers, insoles, stretching, whatever that looks like, making sure that you, as you say, the aftercare and the right tools, the right running gear does make a big difference.
Yeah, and I'd say the last learning for me is that anybody's listening to this thinking, I'd love to be able to run this or do that. It is a process. Yeah, you've just got to start, but start small. I mean, my first run, looking at it now, was 3K, because I hadn't ran, but I didn't set unrealistic goals or expectations of myself. My goal for myself was consistency. So just get out there and just do it, because the miles and the distance and the calories and the heart rate are one thing, but I wanted to overcome the mental barrier of actually having maybe a difficult day at work or you're not really feeling up for it, but then still putting on my trainers and going. And I tell you what, I've had plenty of days like that over the past sort of couple of weeks and months. I didn't want to go, and I really didn't want to go, but I went, and I have never, ever, 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 ever felt bad when I've come back. I've always felt better, and that's the thing that it's like the kicker. That's the only thing that sometimes gets me out of the door is you feel crap now. It's like the chimp paradox. So my chimp's screaming out in my head, "You don't want to do this. Why are you going? What if someone sees you? What if you trip? What if you wreck your fancy shoes? Oh, what if you step in poo? What if you sprain your ankle? What if? But when I slow that down, I go, yeah, I get all that and all that could happen. But you and I both know, don't we, Mr. Chimp, that you're going to feel really vain and good when you get back, and you're going to be able to brag about it. You're going to be able to update your spreadsheet. You're going to be able to go to Sharon, look, I've done my run. You burnt your calories. You're going to get to put your little socks on, and you're going to feel good, aren't you? And he'll go, yeah, fair enough. Let's go.
I think that is good though, when you've got someone who's doing it along with you, and you can say, look, I've done this and this is what I'm doing. And I find that massively helpful, whether it's not really the bragging piece, but it's kind of the accountability side. I've done this, or I've done that, or I haven't done that. And then you give me a good shove and go, come on, Sharon, I've done twice as many miles as you. What are you doing? That's quite motivational for me to go, yes, especially as I'm quite competitive. So I would say, if you are just starting out, if you can find someone who's also starting out with you, and you can both kind of give each other a bit of a shove along the way, that can be really quite powerful to keep your motivation.
Well, you do say you're competitive, but this isn't really a competitive challenge, is it? Because I'm absolutely rocking you.
There's still time.
Yeah, there's still time. There's still time until May next year. So, yeah, I think we can start to wrap it up there. But again, if you're watching this right now or listening to this right now, just start. So tonight, when you get home, or if you're on a night shift, wherever you are in the world, listen to this. Just put on a pair. You don't have to have fancy shoes. None of us started with fancy shoes. You don't have to even have really fancy shorts or anything like that. Just put on a pair of shorts, an old t-shirt, something comfortable on your feet, and just get out of the door and just start small. Start small. Try to log it if you can. Keep an eye on your heart rate, and enjoy it. Watch the weight come off you. Watch how better you will feel physically, but more importantly, how stronger, better you will feel mentally as well. Okay. Are we done?
I think we're done. Yes. Hopefully that was useful for people.
Yeah, I think we can. Wrap this one up now. As always, when we end, hit Tinpot 2. If you'd like to be a guest, any interesting topics you'd like us to discuss, please reach out to myself or Sharon. Always on a Wednesday, 9 a.m. These are going out. We like to keep consistent. Yes, and we also try to keep them within the hour. Topic, punchy, interesting. So I don't know what we're doing next. Do we know what the next one is yet? Do we know what number 8 is going to be?
I don't think we do. So any suggestions, feel free to pass them our way.
I wonder if we do. Again, I'll leave this one hanging for a week or so people could comment. I wonder if we do the insights piece that we recently ran as a company, and we talk about that. So do you want to give like a quick sort of 30-40 seconds, Sharon, of what that is?
Yeah, so that's about personality profiling, but it's not. So you may have heard of insights and red, yellow, green, blue, which it splits different behaviors into those 4 quadrants. And it can be quite useful just to understand how you communicate better with somebody of a similar or opposite type, and how you are motivated and what works best for you in a business and home context. And certainly from a group and team or family point of view, it's useful to see what your similarities and differences are, so you can get the best out of each other and yourselves. So yeah, it's well worth doing, just to understand how best to move forwards.
And I think we'll talk about that because what we will do is, I know myself and you, we've done Myers-Briggs as well, so we'll talk about our colors, but then maybe we'll do our personality types. Like I'm an INTJ and you're a
ENFP.
Yeah, so we'll get some interesting fictional and real life characters. Hannibal Lecter's probably one of them, and then we'll compare. But yes, we'll wrap it up there because we're fast approaching the 45th minute. So thank you again, everyone, for watching and your support, and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.